Okay, well, we're underway. So this is Matt. Thanks for joining us today. Phil is running a little late, so he's going to jump on when he can. But this could be potentially a short call. To be completely honest, I've had a sick kid with strep throat this week, and so I haven't had a chance to listen to the national call that was on Tuesday night. And I'm sure I heard they gave some structural updates and some Fed updates. So I am not going to give a federal update since they kind of already covered that on that call, and we'll get that call recording information out to everybody so that they can check into that. However, if you have some questions at the end about federal things, I'm happy to answer those. But I wanted to use most of our time tonight to talk about a couple of things, which is one, to do a Michigan update and talk about the oral chemo bill. We have some exciting news on that front that Andrew's going to share. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the volunteer structure and the list that I sent to everybody, and then just talk briefly about the training on December 9th. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Andrew to give an update on oral chemo.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. And first of all, good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining the call. So the past this week has been really active in the oral chemo space. And our house champion, Dara Rendon, is now in the process of getting co-sponsors. And she started this week in terms of trying to get folks engaged on the issue and to have folks come in and co-sponsor. And so she started yesterday. And by the end of session today, she had 21 co-sponsors out of our target of 35. So we're super excited in terms of seeing that much support from the House Republican caucus. And those are just Republicans. There are Democrats that are also signing on to the legislation as well. But to have 21 House Republicans sign on is a huge start and a great start for us. And so, we've really kind of hit the first week running in terms of putting this strategy into play. But where does that leave us? And so kind of looking forward here, the legislature is now off for the next 2 weeks. And so they'll be off to go hunt. And then, of course, the Thanksgiving holiday is that next week. And so we're planning a lot of activity for volunteers next week just to continue to call in or send in emails or messages just to ask for support and ask their lawmakers to co-sponsor. And so we'll be doing some of that next week, but then also the week after Thanksgiving, we'll continue to do that again as well. And so that it still continues to stay fresh in the lawmakers' minds in terms of making sure that they sign on to co-sponsor this legislation. So we have a list of targets in terms of folks that we've been concentrating on, and after our call tonight, we'll make sure that we get that list out to you so you can see some of the notes that we've gotten and whether or not people have co-sponsored or not. And some members on our list have said no. Just for political reasons for them. They don't want to see their name on a piece of legislation that may be somewhat controversial, which all of us scratch our heads about that. But,
Andrew?
That's just kind of the game right now. Yeah.
If they're a no to co-sponsor, though, just to be clear for people to know, it does not mean they're a no on the legislation.
Correct. Yep, that's correct. And so, it's folks that have come up and said, yes, we'll support you. Yes, we support the issue. I just don't want my name on this bill. And so, we're playing that game. It's kind of in and out. So, but just look for that activity next week, and then also the week after Thanksgiving. I know folks have been active because every lawmaker I talked to today on our list has said you guys have been doing a great job of bringing the issue to the forefront, putting it on our radar, and asking us to support. And so, you know, lawmakers know about it because, you know, you guys are making the phone calls, you're sending in the postcards, you know, you're sending in the quick emails. And so thank you so much for that. But, you know, please keep it up. I think it's one of these situations where, you know, if we continue to be that, you know, if we continue to be that squeaky wheel, we're going to get some people that will come on board and say, yes, I will co-sponsor. I'm hearing so much about this in my district. I have to do something about that. So yeah. So please feel free, keep it up, and feel free to contact your lawmakers in any way you see fit. And like I said, we can get that list. And if your lawmaker has co-sponsored, call in and say thank you. I think that, you know, hey, we just got to report back. You know, we found out that you did sign on and be a co-sponsor, so thank you so much. I think if we can start doing some of those thank you things before it's actually official, it shows that our volunteers are way ahead of the game than a lot of other people are in this process. And so it shows that we do care about this issue and that we are educated and that, you know, we know what we're talking about. So, so now that that's out there, now there's a whole nother part that goes along with this as well.
Andrew, just one thing really quick. Sorry to interrupt. Because some of you folks, I told you to wait until it gets introduced until before you go and thank them. But as Andrew said, feel free to reach out to them and say, hey, I heard that you officially signed on, and thank them. That's fine. So.
Yep. Yeah. We'll work on letters to the editor and things like that once it becomes official. But I think just that one-on-one phone call, I mean, a lot of you have just one-on-one relationships with these folks. I mean, if you go and have that one-on-one, hey, thank you so much, send that quick note in, like, it will definitely mean a lot. So, but one issue that has kind of raised its head and it's going to be kind of working along now, again, with this issue is price transparency. It's the same thing that killed the bill last year. This year, the health plans have gone out and actually drafted their own bill. So rather than trying to amend the oral chemo bill, they went out and got their own piece of legislation, which is actually good for us because it provides that natural divide. And knowing that, you know, there is another piece of paper that talks about price transparency, and we can say that's a whole separate bill. And so if you're starting to hear some of that information coming back from your lawmakers about price transparency, don't get in that game with them. Just say, you know what, that's a completely different issue. And that, you know, focus on, you know, we need to ensure that we have access to these drugs and to these treatments because, you know, some people, that's all they have. And that's what we need to do. And so, so just kind of a heads up for a landmine that may be out there. They may try to throw that price transparency issue. You know, it's a separate bill. Tell them it's a separate bill, and we're concentrating on ensuring that we can get access to these critical drugs. So with that, Matt, if I didn't forget anything, I'd be happy to take any questions.
No, we can take some questions right now, and then I have a couple of things to say on the grassroots front that we're going to be doing. Any questions on oral chemo, where we're at with that? All right. Well,
awesome.
Adam. Oh, go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I was just going to say, once we get down to the end too, I mean, Matt had mentioned anything, if you had any questions about some of the federal stuff. If you have any questions about the changes that are going on here at ACS Cantu, please feel free to ask. We'd be more than happy to answer, or at least answer what we know.
Yep. Thanks, Andrew. To Andrew's point, I just want to point out a couple things. As Andrew said, we have 21 co-sponsors on the oral chemo bill that have contacted Dear Rendon and are on her list that have officially said, yes, I'm on. What Andrew didn't mention is that at the end of the day yesterday, we had 15. And now at the end of the day today, we have 21. So we made a lot of progress in one day. And the other thing I think that's worth messaging, talking about is that 21 members represents 1/3 of the entire Republican House legislature. So, we have 1/3 of the Republicans already on. We expect plenty of Democrats to sign on. We're not worried about that. So, even if we get, think about it in this way: if we can get 5 or 10 more Republicans on, I'm pretty sure we're going to get 20 Democrats on it. We could be looking at well over 50 co-sponsors on a bill, and that doesn't happen very often in our legislature. A lot of times bills are introduced with 15 people on the bill. So to have 50 people is going to raise eyebrows and give us a lot of ammo moving forward about bipartisanship of the bill, about the overwhelming support. But I do want to mention just a couple things. 7 out of these 21 folks that are on the bill that are Republicans are in districts where we have athletes. And all of those athletes have been working hard to get them on. Of course, Dear Rendon's on, and Sandra has helped us there. But just to name a couple, the biggest surprise probably of this week is that Representative Peter Lucido is on the bill. And he has been very negative towards Sherry Milson about the bill. And I just want to tell everybody hats off to Sherry for locking that down. That was a huge surprise. But really, thank you to everybody down the whole list. I'm just overwhelmed by, we have 9 athletes that have a Republican House member, and we've gotten 7 of them. And that's not to say the 2 that we haven't gotten haven't done the work. I would say the 2 we haven't got, which are Tom Barrett and Daniela Garcia, are probably pretty far out there as far as us ever having a chance to get them. They're probably not even supportive of the legislation, let alone co-sponsoring. So, we have done great work. We can trace back, the ACS can. The majority of these 21 co-sponsors are from our touches. Even though we're working with a coalition, it's almost the vast majority is coming from our work. So thank you for all the time that people have put in over this year with this strategy. It's really starting to pay off. And I think it's kind of working the way we thought. Once we got some people on, others have added because now they have cover. And then the one thing that Andrew didn't mention that I will mention, the 2 doctors in the House, the two Republican reps that are doctors have both officially signed on. And I think that is huge for us and shows support, obviously, from the doctors. So, as of right now, we're really happy with where we're at. If we could get 9 more in the next, 2.5 weeks to get to 30, or even get to that 35, I think that would be huge. And we will be reaching out to ambassadors in all of the districts that have Republicans that haven't signed on and asking them to do some work. And some of them are still going to. And then just quickly here, I'm going to read through who has officially co-sponsored so you guys know, and if yours is one of them. But these are the Republicans that have officially said they're on. Obviously, Dear Rendon, Kathy Crawford, Aaron Miller, Tommy Brand, Dave Pagel, Kim Lasada, Holly Hughes, Kurt Vanderwall, Jeff Noble, Peter Lucido, John Bison, Julie Alexander, Julie Callie, Tim Kelly, Diana Farrington, Michael McCready, Dr. Canfield, Tristan Cole, Boo Lefebvre, Jason Wentworth, and Martin Halriak. Thank you to everybody. You guys have made this happen. And some of our ambassadors have worked as hard as you. Melissa Olson to get Trista Cole, Betsy Ledbetter to get Jason Wentworth on this bill. So a lot of hard work by all of you. And so we really, really do appreciate it. Our coalition partners and our lobbyists are super excited about this and are really blown away by what we've done so far. And I think we can get even more. So we'll keep doing that. So with that, I'm going to transition a little bit, since we were talking ambassadors, to talk just a little bit about the ambassador list. I sent that out to everybody of all the ambassadors that are in your district, so you can kind of take a look and see who is on it. We've kind of purged the list down of people who are not active anymore, or at least to our best knowledge have not been active for over a year, or maybe even 2 years. And kept on the list those people that I know that usually if we were to contact them one-on-one, they would do something for us. Also on that list are all the new people that we have brought in the last couple of months. I actually have 2 more now, I think, that I need to add on to that. That's people are coming on that quickly. So, you know, I think what we're going to do on our December 9th training is kind of look at this list, kind of have a plan. We have some athletes working on some ideas for volunteer engagement moving forward, so we can better engage and keep these folks engaged throughout the year and helping us out. And one of those ways that we really want to do is elevate an ambassador in each district to become a deputy athlete. And I've gotten the questions of what is a deputy athlete? Well, deputy athlete is pretty simple. The deputy athlete is there to assist the athlete with all the activities that they're doing, and really to be the right-hand man or woman for that person, and help with that, and also to be that to be there in case the actual athlete cannot do something. So we've come into some situations here recently where the athlete can't attend something, or they can't come to Leadership Summit Lobby Day. It'd be great to have somebody already there in the district and identified as that next person up. And so that's really what we're going to do, and just also take maybe elevate their engagement a little bit more. So that is the kind of the deputy athlete, what we want them to be, and kind of assist a person that you can, if you're setting up a meeting with your member of Congress, you're going to be able to contact them and say, hey, we should both go to this, and see if they can come. If there's a time you can't do a drop-off, that's the person you first reach out to say, hey, can you do a drop-off during this next month? I'm going to be really busy, and kind of build out that. And then who are those athletes? So in most of the districts right now, we don't have an identified person that's the obvious choice to step up and do that. There are a couple of the districts that we do. So really, it's going to be kind of looking at the list and thinking about, okay, who's been active, or who maybe you know from previous activities or things like that that you think might be able to get engaged, and then kind of put a plan together to contact them and see if they're interested in doing it, and kind of move from there. And then in addition to that, we're working on some things to just engage our ambassadors a little bit more frequently, a little bit more one-on-one, and get them involved, and especially have a better system for getting new ambassadors engaged in that first month to do something. Because normally if they don't do something, we don't give them something in that first month, we lose them. But if we can engage them in that first month and get them to do something, then they're much more willing to stay on and do more things for us in the future. So that's kind of where we're at with the volunteer structure, and I'm happy to answer any questions anybody might have along those lines.
Matt, I was able to join the call shortly after it started. Do we have people to contact you to suggest who might be a potential deputy athlete for each of the districts?
Yes. Yeah, if you have ideas right now, please contact me. It's fine if you look at the list and you don't know any of the people on the list, and you don't have any suggestions right now, that's fine. But if you're familiar with the list, and you look at it and you know somebody that you think this could be the good person for it, go ahead and contact me and we'll talk about it. And then what we'll probably do is have you reach out to them and say, hey, because I think that'll be a good start to creating that relationship and having that go-to person in your district as the deputy right away from the beginning. And so yeah, Phil, thank you for mentioning that. They should definitely, if you see somebody on there, shoot me an email. I have notes on there of what they've done, but there's probably even more I know about them that's on there, so we can kind of talk it through. Thanks. And anything else? All right. So the last thing I want to talk about tonight was the training on the 9th. And just a couple things quickly. Number one, it's going to be at the R.E. Olds Museum in Lansing. We're going to have it on that Saturday. I think it's a really cool venue. We're going to have our meeting during our breaks. We're going to be able to check out the museum, which is a really cool museum, and really get down and talk about a lot of these issues. I'm looking for, I would say we have about half the agenda set, and the other half is still open, and I'm willing to take any suggestions you have of what you want to cover. I really want this training to be about what you need. The things that we do have planned right now, it's been asked that we do a power analysis of your district, so we're going to do that. We're going to bring, Tracy's going to Skype into the meeting at some point early on to go do about a half an hour media training to kind of talk about media and how we can do better with media in our districts. And then also we're going to spend some time just to prepare you and talk about our priorities moving into the next year, maybe give an update on oral chemo and where we're at in more in depth. This is what we're doing and this is what we want to do moving forward in Michigan in 2018. And so that's the rough agenda we have right now. The rest of the agenda is really open. I said we're going to talk a little bit about the volunteer structure too and those deputies, but if there are other things that you really want us to cover, let me know, shoot me an email, make those suggestions, because I really want to make it a good use of your time and us be training or talking about or collaborating on the things you want us to be doing. So with that, and if anybody has a suggestion right now, I'll take it, or any questions about the training. Quiet group tonight. So we're really looking forward to the training on the 9th. I've heard back from most of the athletes that are all going to be able to make it, so that's really exciting to have everybody come. The other thing is that if we do identify in the next week or so some deputy athletes, we do have a few spots that we can offer them up. It's a matter of that we're meeting in a conference room that they have, and it's just a matter of seats and how many people the conference room holds, because it doesn't hold that many. So we do have 4 or 5 open seats that we could fill. And so if we do have somebody that we think, we can reach out to them, ask them to be deputy athlete, and invite them to the training. I know it's a month away, but if they can make it down for that, then it would be great. And we can help train them. If they can't, we'll find some time to train them at another time. But we're looking forward to it. And then I think I discussed this before, but just so everybody knows why we moved the training into December, really January, February, with people being gone out of state and weather concerns of always worrying about what the weather's going to be like during that time. And then lastly, we really felt to train and plan prior to 2018 for 2018 was a better idea, because then we can get out of the gates running in January and not wait. We had the luxury this year that we were just coming off an election in January, February, so not a lot was going on in the legislature. But the legislature is going to be hot and heavy right out of the gates in January, because they're going to want to be gone by June so they can go and start to campaign, because it's going to be a hot campaign year in Michigan next year. So we need to be ready to go and move on things right in January and February. So that's why we've moved it up into December, and I think it's just going to work out better all around that way. So. Okay. With that, I just open up for any other questions on anything federal, anything in Michigan with oral chemo that you might have and want to add. All right. You can expect the oral chemo bill to be introduced probably last week of November or the first week in December. And like Andrew said, at that point in time, we will probably go public and try to get letters to the editor and things like that thanking folks. So be prepared for that. If your person signs on, we're probably going to ask you to do a letter to the editor. Or if we have an ambassador in that same district, we may ask them to do it so that they can submit one, since the athletes submit a lot on their own. And we'll go from there. But we're getting movement, and it's exciting times, and the oral chemo bill is starting to shape up. Obviously, passing in the Senate just last month, and now getting introduction in the House by the end of this month or early December. We have a lot of things in play right now. So, all right, with that, I'd like to thank everybody for their time. And if you have, I'll be sending the recording and a follow-up after this. But any questions or anything, feel free to email or call us, and we'll be happy to respond. And if I don't hear from you before that, everybody have a happy Thanksgiving, and we will see you on December 9th in Lansing. Thanks.